Welcome to the Scalpel of Truth, the podcast providing cutting insight on how to rise to the top in the medical aesthetics industry with your host, Leisa Krause, aka the Bitch and Beautician. That's Leisa with an E, which stands for explicit, because in this surgical suite, she won't sugarcoat the truth, and yes, there will be some seriously salty language, not suitable for sensitive souls, children, nor pets. As a business consultant, Leisa shares the knowledge and lessons she's gleaned over 30 years in the industry. Time spent working directly with patients, managers, and med spa owners alike. Her practice growth strategies are sharp, her stories and wit sharper, and her panache for bringing the spice the sharpest. So buckle up, bichachos. Leisa is about to slice and dice another episode of The Scalpel of Truth.
Hey bichachos, welcome back to the Scalpel of Truth, where I don't hold back on what you need to hear on running a killer med spa. I'm your host, Leisa, aka the Bitch and Beautician, and today we're diving into a little topic I like to call playing favorites, and how it's royally screwing up your med spa culture. Now, I know some of you out there don't think you're playing favorites, but let me tell you, if you're not paying attention to how you treat your team, this little issue could be lurking under the surface, wrecking your med spa practice from the inside out. All right? So we're going to get into this. Let's go. Here's the legal part I need to read. This podcast is presented solely for educational entertainment purposes. Guys, I'm just your beauty business bitch. I'm not a licensed therapist or an HR representative, nor am I a lawyer. This platform's used to share my experiences with what's made me a successful service provider, a manager, and a business consultant for those who I coach. Got it? Beautiful. Guys, let's get one thing straight. Playing favorites happens. Whether it's intentional or not, a lot of med spa owners, managers, even team leads fall into this trap. I have fallen into this trap while being a manager, even being a consultant and working with teams. It's human nature to celebrate those who are rock stars. There's that one employee who seems to just get it. They're on top of things. They make you look good. They're maybe even bringing in more revenue than everyone else. But here's the problem, guys. When you start giving special treatment to one person, you send a message to the rest of your team that they're not as valued. And sometimes it's not even the person that's bringing in the most. Maybe it's somebody's bestie that they work with and they don't bring in the most, but they're still the teacher's pet. So we need to watch out for this. What happens is it builds resentment. And I'm not talking the they didn't invite me to lunch kind. I'm talking about the deep-seated toxic resentment that builds up and seeps into culture and tanks the morale of your team. Okay? So I want you to really take note of some of these red flags of playing favorites. One red flag is that lopsided praise. That's consistently praising one person while everyone else is left out. So it is completely lopsided, teeter-totter style. Then you've got the special treatment. Okay, that's another flag. Giving that person the prime shifts. So maybe they get all day shifts. They don't have to do evenings. They don't have to do weekends. They get maybe some of the easy tasks. Okay, overlooking some of their mistakes. Or like, we don't say anything, but this, maybe this contractor coming in, this nurse injector doesn't ever help with laundry, doesn't ever, be a team player. The other one is the communication access. So spending more time talking to your favorite team member than the rest of the team, maybe giving them info that no one else gets or gets later. Okay. These are all things that are red flags for playing favorites. And I mean, again, I'm going to tell you, I've been guilty of this in the past. So it doesn't breed good clinic culture. It breeds toxicity. I get it. Maybe that person really is a rock star, but here's the reality. You've got to have an even playing field. You're running a team, not a fan club. If you keep putting one person on a pedestal, you're actually going to be in the long run asking for a mutiny from the rest. It's going to be a total upheaval because people talk. They're going to start talking and being like, oh, there's the teacher's pet. And then that person who's your favorite it actually puts a target on their back. Let's talk about the fallout of favoritism and what the real cost is here. When you play favorites, you're not just hurting feelings, you're hurting the bottom line of the business, because this shit, it affects the entire business. So favoritism leads to a few things. Number one thing it leads to is low morale, because the rest of your staff feels overlooked. They start checking out. They start maybe even looking for an exit strategy and to go fuck off and work somewhere else where they are valued or they are celebrated and not tolerated. The next one is high turnover. Why the hell is someone going to stay in a toxic environment where they feel undervalued? They're going to be out the door faster than a Groupon customer looking for the next deal. Productivity is also less. Let's touch on that. When people aren't happy, their productivity tanks. They're not engaged. They're not giving it their best. And they're certainly not bringing in more revenue, right? They're doing status quo, or you need to beg them to do the bare minimum. Another one is loss of respect. I mean, that's a big one. Playing favorites makes you look unprofessional. Your team needs to have a fair leader, not a biased one. You start looking like the boss who is too biased, and it's going to kill the respect that everyone has for you. So let's break it down even further. Every time you give preferential treatment to your favorite, you're basically telling everyone else they're not good enough or that they aren't the favorite. And trust me, no amount of team building exercises, workshops for motivation, or any other bullshit pep talk is going to fix that once it starts to fester. Let's look at the subtle damage. Even if you think it's no big deal, maybe you're sitting here listening to this thinking, oh, I'm not that obvious with my favorites. I kind of keep it under the radar. Listen up. It actually is obvious to your team. They see it, they feel it, and they talk about it. So in your break room, your staff room, little quiet corners, that starts to turn into a gossip zone. Your team is going to quietly, or not so quietly, start tearing down the person who's getting special treatment. Again, it's putting a target on their back. That resentment spreads. And before you know it, you've got cliques, you've got drama, you've got a fucking soap opera on your hands. So let me ask you this question. How often do you hear feedback from your team? If it's only coming from your favorite, and if others are too afraid to speak up or not telling you things, and there's not that two-way communication with everyone, it's a red flag that you've got a problem. And let's be real, favoritism doesn't just ruin morale, it actually hurts your patient care because your staff is going to start to be bitter. They're distracted, disengaged. Your patients are abso-fucking-lutely going to notice that. And guess what? They're going to go elsewhere that feels like a high energy, positive, united culture. That's what they're going to look for. Because when you've got toxic culture, it is palpable. You can feel it. It's in the air. You can cut it with a knife. You can tell people are walking on eggshells. That's revenue going to be walking out the door because you couldn't keep your team aligned. So let's recap this. If you're playing favorites, even subtly, you're setting your MedSpa up for chaos, resentment, and a high turnover. You're draining productivity, you're losing respect, and ultimately you're going to be losing revenue. And that is what the biggest cost is. It's time to stop pretending it doesn't matter because it absolutely does. And be aware of what you're treating each team member like and making damn sure it's fair and professional. But listen, if you're serious about fixing this and taking your leadership skills to the next level, I'm going to be diving a little deeper into some pearls and more actionable tips in the VIP Club Bachacho section or segment of the podcast. That's where we'll get into some of that clear setting expectations, how to course correct if you've already got this problem and if you're already waist deep in it, and some exact scripts that you're going to need to bring the team back into line. So if you are ready to go from popular boss to a badass boss, I want you to join us in the after party of Club Bachacho. Team, I love you. I appreciate you. I thank you so much for choosing to spend your time with me and tune in to the Scalpel of Truth. If you're a Club VIP Bachacho, after party is coming. We are going to dive deep. Otherwise, the rest of you, I'm going to invite you to check out Club Bachacho because we'd love to see you at the after party. And let me tell you, it's amazing, if I do say so myself. I love you. Keep crushing it. and we'll see you on the next one. Badasses, I'm going to see you soon.
Don't want to wait to see things stay the way they are.